15 minutes. That is the normal duration of the presentations. So we will have a lot of time, hopefully, to discuss at the end. So the questions, comments will be at the end to allow a real conversation. So I will ask at the end for the presenters to come again to the stage. So our first presenter is Júlia Vilhena. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosa. Open. Okay. So bonjour, merci. What I will be presenting today is part of the European research project Conciliari, which studies the transformations in colonial cultural heritage across 6 European countries. My contribution is an initial exploration of the colonial traces in the cities of Porto and Lisbon in Portugal, and the counter-narratives that emerge in response to them. This includes also the colonial artistic interventions and that challenges dominant historical narratives. So, since 2017, the colonial legacy embedded in Portugal's public space has been increasingly questioned and subject to acts of contestation and intervention. These challenges confront a long-standing narrative shaped since the late 19th century that glorifies the maritime exploration and imperial expansions of the 15th and 16th centuries. This version of history, long dominant in public discourse and commemorative practices, has selectively emphasized certain heroic figures, dates, and achievements, while omitting or downplaying the violent and exploitative dimensions of colonization. The decision to highlight certain aspects of the past while silencing others is itself a political and ideological act, not neutral. The resistance to alternative narratives that confront, for example, the colonial violence reveals an attempt to preserve a singular and uncontested vision of history, and this is closely aligned with the ideological framework promoted during the Estado Novo, it's the dictatorship regime in Portugal, that tried to legitimize colonial worldview by constructing a narrative of harmony between the metropolis and the so-called overseas provinces. It was part of a broader political policy of the spirit, so-called, that promoted also the renewal of public spaces as a way to forge a unified national identity aligned with this ideological principle. And these narratives have endured in Portugal's public space, as we will see, materialized in monuments that continue to occupy the urban landscape. These symbols continue to be reaffirmed, not only through their preservation, but also through their reactivation and also renewal. So the visual and symbolic language of these monuments often suggests as a continuity between past and present, concealing the ideological framework that sustained them. And since 2017, these symbols in Portugal's public space have been more openly challenged and questioned for the histories they reflect, no? And the silences they impose, and also the power structures they uphold. No? The acts of contestation are political gestures that seek to reclaim space, visibility, and voice in the public sphere. And alongside these direct actions, decolonial arts have emerged as a powerful form of critique and reimagining. Through visual, performative, site-specific practices, artists are challenging the symbolic foundations of colonial memory embedded in public monuments and urban landscapes. In what follows, we will examine the two artistic projects that offer an alternative way of remembering and inhabiting Portugal's public space. But to understand the significance of these artistic interventions, it is essential to first contextualize the sites of memory they engage with. So, originally designed for the 1940 exhibition of the Portuguese world, the Empire Square Garden in Lisbon was later adorned with floral coats of arms representing Portugal's former overseas colonies. It was installed in 1960 during the Estado Novo's regime commemoration of the 500th anniversary of Prince Harry the Navigator's death. This arrangement symbolized the regime's imperial ideology, as I said before, portraying the colonies as integral parts of the Portuguese world. In 2016, a proposal for the removal of these colonial floral symbols in Lisbon sparked a strong opposition from nationalist and far-right groups. In response, the City Council decided to permanently embed 32 coats of arms, including those of former colonies, into the pavement using traditional stonework. So, though presented as an act of heritage preservation, the measure was promoted by far-right actors aiming to reaffirm this ideological legacy of the Estado Novo. The controversy triggered broader public and institutional debate on how colonial memory is managed in Lisbon's urban landscape. While some proposals called for a critical reinterpretation, the official reopening of the garden happened in January 2023, attended by the president, and revealed the enduring attachment to imperial tradition at the highest level of the state. So in this context, the work A Petrificação dos Cravos, The Petrification of Carnations by Apolo Carvalho emerges as a counter-narrative intervention in Portugal's colonial memoryscape. The piece is part of In Loco, I will show here. It's a project created by the artistic platform Terceira Pessoa, based in Castelo Branco. In Loco consists of a digital platform hosting 52 site-specific works by 23 artists across the 18 districts of mainland Portugal, and each work is tied to a specific place. Its presentation is fully virtual, no? So viewers access the pieces via smartphones while physically present at the exact site that inspired the creation, merging this way embodied experience with digital storytelling. And the unifying conceptual thread that across all these works is the metaphor of the stone. So the petrification of carnation is a performance and a counter-colonial political act in which the artist-performer Vanya Puma, embodying the voice of the descendants of the liberation struggles in Africa and of the 25 April Revolution, speaks with the stones. This is a description of Inlocus that I got from Inlocus' presentation project. It says, the stones as things, the stones as people, the stones of crushing, the stones of hunger, the stones of empire, imagining the destitution of statues and spectral monuments, envisioning and projecting their return to the ground, to the earth, to the rock, to life, in a continuous gesture of creative destruction. Apolo de Carvalho is an artist and researcher of Cape Verdean descent, member of Afrolis project, and the performance was created in collaboration with Vânia Puma Andrade, a poet and performer, also Cape Verdean descent, co-founder of the collective Mulheres Negras Escurecidas. So from the Imperial Garden of the Imperial Square of Lisbon, we now move to the Imperial Square in Porto City, in the north of Portugal. Between June and September 1934, Porto's Crystal Palace hosted the first Portuguese colonial exhibition. And as the title suggests, the exhibition sought to display and glorify the Portuguese Empire's presence in its occupied territories. It was in this context that the first version of the monument to the Portuguese colonial effort, Monumento ao Esforço Colonizador Português, was created. Originally designed as a temporary installation, the monument was made of perishable materials, wood and plaster, and featured an Art Deco style obelisk topped with, like this, with the Portuguese coat of arms, and surrounded in its base by 6 heroic figures: the missionary, the soldier, the merchant, the doctor, the farmer, and the woman. The 5 male figures are identified by tools symbolizing their roles, and the woman's tool, the woman doesn't have a tool, but she is with her breasts exposed. No? These are some pictures of this exhibition that was held in 1934, where you can see the obelisk there next to the palace. And by the way, the palace has, in that occasion, had the name of Palace of the Colonies, no? And following the exhibition, this provisional monument was replaced by a monument version in stone. In 1984, 10 years after the fall of the Estado Novo's regime, the Porto City Council reinstalled the obelisk in the same square. And since 2018, this monument has become a site of public contestation and intervention. Activists have painted the hands of the figures in red and inscribed phrases like take the shit down, oppressor. And at the same year, the Interstruct Collective was formed in the city of Porto. It is an initiative of artists, activists, and researchers dedicated to rethink spaces of colonial legacy in Porto City. And one of their key projects is an interactive map that identifies and questions locations across the city that glorify its colonial past. Within the palace, Crystal Palace garden, the group organized a digital installation like this that imagined alternative monuments to the current one. These actions culminated also in the exhibition Desenterrando Memórias, Unearthing Memories, that took place in Rampa. It is a non-profit cultural association founded in Porto in 2018. The exhibition takes a critical look at colonial legacies and frames collective memory in the context of the city. In parallel with this exhibition, Interstruct guided a walking tour entitled Unearthing Memories, Exploring Contemporary Conditions and Formulating Possible Futures. This tour was presented as part of the Porto Design Biennale program. So through a cooperative curatorial method, the artists examine critically these colonial legacies, seeking to uncover silent histories and restore the agency of colonized people both past and present. This is a description also of the Interstruct collective. So in 2019, the same year, Portugal's restoration of Independence Day, the 1st of December, the far-right party, PNR, chose the same place as a site for nationalist and conservative demonstration. The party's manifesto explicitly connected the preservation of the colonial symbol to an anti-immigration political stance in the present, revealing how deeply intertwined the politics of memory are with the contemporary debates around race, identity, and belonging. So, as a brief conclusion, may I have 2 minutes? Sorry. Okay. So, recognizing the central role of myth in shaping national identity, political theorist Duncan Bell introduces the concept of cosmopolitan mythscapes to describe the dynamic discursive spaces where competing collective memories and nationalist myths are negotiated. A mythscape is then a constantly evolving repository in which the past is reinterpreted to meet the demands of the present. So in former imperial nations like Portugal, these mythscapes are very tied to the imperial experience. Indeed, imperial projects were foundational to the construction of imperial European nation states, and to this day, the categories of nation and empire remain deeply entangled. Monuments such as the monument ao esforço colonizador português actively reshape how societies represent and interpret their colonial legacy today, reinforcing or challenging hegemonic narratives. So in this context, the colonial artistic interventions emerge as a powerful tool to disrupt these hegemonic narratives and challenge the colonial traces embedded in public spaces. By reimagining these spaces, artists and collectives like Interstruct and the in local project open up possibilities for critical engagement with history, memory, and identity. These practices not only reclaim silenced voices, but also invite us to rethink how memory is built, disputed, and made visible in the urban fabric. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you a lot, Júlia Vilhena. And now we move on to the second speaker, Haoxuan. Thank you. Who will present a paper about fine art as social representation, creativity, identity, and cultural transformation in Fandom communities.
Can I add this one?
Yeah.
I'm not sure which one. No, it's sorry. How can
I'm sorry, I'm not used to deal with this system, so.
Simply I have the
RGE, HDM.
I.
not sure.
You have an adaptator.
We
Or
can
you
use the
could,
pen.
you
Oh,
can
yeah,
use my
yeah,
pen and
sure.
put here.
Thank you so much.
But
Yeah.
you have here entrance for the.
I know.
I have a thing here.
Sorry for time consuming. Because the lady told me that I can choose more. Just like
Also maybe go here now. You can
It could be.
you can also put this
Oh, sure.
here.
Try to look.
Yes.
thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I've never seen it. That's great.
I need because mine also has only one.
Okay, it worked.
Okay, good. Good morning, everyone, and thank you being here. My name is Haoxuan, and I am a first-year student, first-year PhD student in social representations, culture, and communication at the University of Rome. My sorry about the title. I slightly changed it from the original one. My doctoral research is actually about the collective memory of Nanjing massacre in Taiwan. But this presentation is kind of combination of my academic interest in collective memory and my personal interest in fan fiction, as I am not only a PhD student, but I am also a reader and creator of fan fiction myself. So I choose to combine them together. And this presentation is under the guidance of my supervisor, Rosa Cabecinhas. Today I'm going to explore how fan-created stories based on the Japanese manga Hitalia Axis Powers, how they reinterpret and reconstruct the collective memory related to World War II among the fan fictions. This project is the theoretical theory based on the theory of collective memory. Collective memory is started by Harburgs and then developed by other scholars. They point out that the memory is not just an individual act of the past, but a socially constructed phenomenon. It is usually produced and shaped through media, institutions, and cultural narratives. So this is the basic idea of the concept of collective memory. And then, which is usually highly related to about collective memory is the narrative of victimhood. It is the group's presentation of having suffered harm unjustly, especially during the wartime. So, in short, it can be taken as a lens through which past suffering justifies the present attitudes. So, some scholars point out that it can function as a political and cultural tool affecting intergroup conflict and historical representation, which I think we can dig into this point more deeply through the further research. And about the topic today, so why I chose fan fiction as my research subject. In case you have no idea about what fan fiction is, let me take Harry Potter as an example. So here in the imagine is Harry Potter and his kind of enemy, Draco Malfoy. In the original work that J.K. Rowling wrote, they are not friends at least, but actually they are the most popular gay couple relationship among all of the Harry Potter fan fictions. So fan fictions are the stories that fans of some work they created based on the original characters, but they will change the story, develop, and to write whatever they want. So unlike while we talk about fan fiction, not fan fiction, collective memory, it usually started by about textbooks, institutions, or mass media. But why I chose fan fiction? Because it's a bottom-up, effective, and participatory form of memory making. Just I think it offers a new perspective for us to know how people, especially how the female people think about the things. And I think it's kind of a challenge or supplement to the historical presentations by introducing subjective perspectives, emotional depths, and they offer the alternative narratives, especially when related to the historical events. Last but not least, I think fan fiction also shows the creativity among global fans, which I think it is important because when it's related to history, it's better for us to know from other perspectives from all over the world. And why I chose this specific animation of Italia. Italia was a anime created by a Japanese creator, and he used characters as personifications of nations. As you can see, it is Italy, especially North Italy, and here are the 5 countries of the United Nations: France, China, US, UK, and Russia. The characteristics about this work is one of these is it blurs lines between parody, history, and geopolitics. It's kind of retells the stories humorously. So also someone also criticized about it. I'll talk later. And the fandom is known for complex engagement with national trauma because in the original work, the creator tries to avoid those sensitive events. And I'm going to share some recent studies on Italia. Some scholars say that Japan, or this specific work, tend to satirize or obscure wartime themes. And also someone think this is a soft power propaganda of Japan. They try to dilute its dark history by replacing this violent past with comedic personifications. And so I think that's why fan fiction matters when it comes to Italia, because fan fiction, it comes to pay more attention to those events which were rarely addressed in the original work. And according to some new recent studies, that the fan fiction of Italia transform national characters into emotionally complex agents. And here is what I'm going to show about. So here are my research questions. How do Italia fan fictions represent wartime memory, particular events like Pearl Harbor attack and the atomic bombings, which are significant historical events? We all know about that. But Italia, as a animation highly related to World War II, it avoids to mention either of them, but it is frequently mentioned in the fan fictions. And how is the theme of collective victimhood constructed and distributed across national characters? Third, what narrative patterns, symbols, and emotional repertoires emerge in fan reimaginings of these events? So I just start my initial research about that. Here's the methodology and data collection. And I chose this website as the resource data because it is the most popular, the most international platform for fans to publish their fan fictions. And also it offers very strong function of the theater. And so I felt as this. I chose the fandom based on Italia, Access Powers, English language, especially the characters between America and Japan, also the relationship tag. So I did a little bit qualitative contentness. And after these filters, I chose, it turns out there were about 79 articles, or not articles, or fan works after these filters. And it turns out that 29 fits more strict standard that is related to highly related to the Pearl Harbor attack and atomic bombing, and I just chose 5 to start. I will explore more, but for the presentation today, I just chose 5 of them. And here is the table. So we can see that it's still the fan fiction of Italia is continuous from 2010 when the manga just came out, and until very recently in 2023. And believe me, there is more recent ones, maybe just published today. And the authors, I'm going to find out where they come from, because their background may have an influence to their attitudes to their wars or the victimhood narrative. And there are short stories about just 2,000 and very long ones, like the long novel, up to about 12,000 words. Hopefully my dissertation will reach these words. And then I did a little bit thematic analysis about their main focus and the events mentioned. So here are my initial findings. First, the victim-victim dynamics. Although Japan is one member of the Axis powers, which should be blamed during World War II, but in fan fictions, Japan is often portrayed as a wounded, traumatized figure, while America, as the character of America, transits from a hero to an aggressor, particularly in stories centered on the atomic bombings. And then the narrative reversal. Fan authors frequently reverse or blur historical roles, complicating the binary of aggressor and victim. They are just simply them into interpersonal relationships. And that's the third one, emotional labor. Many fics highlight emotional. Just like when America showed caring or apologizing to Japan, which is constructed with official history. Last but not the least, it offers the absence of canon, because harbor attack and atomic bombing are rarely addressed in the original work. So making these the fan fictions sites of memory recovery, of moral and negotiation. Yes, this is the study I'm doing so far, but I will explore some more about this topic. And thank you for listening. I'm welcome to your comments or questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you a lot. We had combined that the questions and comments are in the end. So we pass immediately to the third speaker, Flavie Pons. Pardon. The role of filmmaking in social representations of climate change and in people's imaginations of the future climate. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Flavie Pons. I'm a first-year PhD student in social psychology at the Groupe under the supervision of Sabine Caillot. Today, I will present a study on social representations of climate change as constructed by films. This research focuses on films because media communications contribute to the construction and reconstruction of social representations of climate change. Social psychology research on these social representations have mainly focused on traditional media, such as press articles. Film production hasn't been explored in relation to this theme. However, film communication also contribute to the production of social representations of climate change through this visual, audio, and verbal information. Sorry. Cultural artifacts produce a set of meanings as images objectify social reality. Films are objects invested with various of meanings as they involve a process of exchange between the filmmaker and the viewer. More specifically, they are invested with a so-called invisible meaning corresponding to that of the filmmaker. This meaning is supported by a medium, in this case the film, which is itself invested with various of meanings, thus of the viewers. This complexity of meanings is at the core of the social communication and is essential for understanding the dynamics of social representations. Furthermore, cinema is a powerful tool for constructing and circulating the collective imagination. Films help to anchor climate change in people's everyday lives and shape the interpretation of the event depicted. They can contribute to changing people's understanding of real-life problems, such as climate change, and offer a guided experience of the imagination. Science fiction films dealing with climate change can show possible future in an imaginative and creative way without the constraint of reality, but this future can still be linked to real conditions since they are based on the current context. Fiction offers the possibility of exploring new ideas as it's developed in a safe space, unlike realistic works. This is why the study focuses on the cinematic genre, as it provides an opportunity to explore the future through imagination, whereas, according to some study, individuals still find it difficult to imagine the future environment. The aim of this research was therefore to understand how groups appropriate this type of film to talk about climate change and the future, and how elements of the film are objectified and become embedded in the viewer's social representations. To answer this question, 4 focus groups of 3 to 5 participants were conducted. There were 16 French participants, each between 19 and 70. 2 groups were rural dwellers, and the other were urban dwellers. The methodology was carried out in 2 stages. In first, we showed the participants Kevin Reynolds' 1995 films Water World. It's a post-apocalyptic film in which the Earth is submerged by water due to the melting of the polar ice caps. We chose this film because this is one of the first science fiction films to address climate change, and after consulting several websites listing the science fiction films, we found that Waterworld was mentioned frequently and that there were relatively few such films. After showing the film to the participants, we invited them to discuss it. The topic discussed during the discussion were the film Waterworld, then the film and climate change, and finally climate change more specifically. A grounded theory analysis was carried out for us to investigate the underlying processes present in the discussion. As you can see, 4 main points were theorized: an anthropogenic causes, an eternal renewal, hope for future generations, and an inevitable catastrophe. The diagram summarizes the key points raised by the participants during the focus groups. I will expand on these findings in a more detailed way to understand how elements of this film may have contributed to this representation. Sorry. Firstly, the film was rooted in the reality of subject, as they used elements of the film to discuss the causes of climate change. Indeed, the role of the villain, just here, was perceived as the caricature of capitalism and as the whole kin when compared to industrial lobbies. For example, a participant said, "It's the villain who's made to be a caricature." In fact, the criticism of society is actually not implied, but really brought to the foreground. Moreover, all participants cited anthropogenic causes, expressing a systematic responsibility due to our capitalist society. For example, that us today, it's modern society, industrialization, for me, that's what it is. However, there was a certain duality between collective and individual responsibility. The subject questioned the impact of individual actions on climate change. Secondly, in Waterworld, the characters do not know how humanity ended up on a water submerged Earth. Viewers associated this plot with an eternal repetition of human error, saying that the lack of transmission of knowledge and information could be a cause of climate change and the future climate. For example, a participant said, after that, perhaps there was no duty to transmit. That wasn't done either. Moreover, participants referred to the COVID-19 pandemic, stating it has reduced our carbon emission, but that after the virus lockdown, individual and society had returned to their old habits and resumed overconsumption. This verbatim illustrates this representation. After COVID, we were told, consume, get back to it. Consequently, social forgetfulness played a prominent role in subject discourse, and the eternal repetition of this type of behavior was for them one of the causes of climate change. In addition, subjects referred to a scene from the film, associating it with dictatorial discourse that may have existed and is present in their reality. For example, a participant said, "It's a bit of dictatorial behavior. You think you were looking at either Mussolini or Hitler." They then drew on historical and temporal knowledge by comparing scenes from the film to past events such as Second World War, Charlie Hebdo, and COVID. Furthermore, in Waterworld, the secondary actress is a little girl who has a map tattooed on her back, showing the way to find dry land. The audience interpreted this character as representing hope for future generations in relation to climate change. However, they're trying to bring a certain nuance to their comments by distinguishing ecological awareness and ecological practices. The audience discussed that the fact that the little girl only had ecological awareness, but that her behavior was not necessarily pro-ecological. They then drew a parallel with the social reality, pointing out that ecological practices were difficult to implement because they were influenced by issues of power and money. In addition, they appropriated the theme by stating that the future generations were the main actor of climate future, and it was therefore necessary to take preventive action and educate the young in order to change mentality. This verbatim illustrates this representation well. Maybe it's already happening. Did I say at the educational level? Start with the little ones, as they said in the film. With the little ones, we have hope. Teach them about ecology. Finally, Waterworld is a post-apocalyptic film where catastrophe is at the core of the plot. Post-apocalyptic films such as Waterworld imply that the past action haven't been enough to solve climate change. This type of representation was embedded in the participant discourse as they perceived the solution proposed by governmental authorities to be ineffective because they considered them to be too late. They all believed that a catastrophe was inevitable, whether climate-related or not. For them, climate disaster is already a foregone conclusion. One participant even said, and I quote, "Well, that's the future," referring to the film. However, some participants felt that humanity would not see this climate disaster because we kill each other first. For example, there will be wars before that, in fact. If that happened, we all be dead before the sea levels rise. They expressed a certain fatalism about the climate situation, which contradicts their hope for future generations. The participants' discourse combines a fatalistic view of future with hope placed in youth and education. Overall, the objectification proposed by film produces meaningful images for the participants, which in a sense may have reduced their own objectifications, since climate change is already depicted and objectified by the film. The results of the study show that viewers use many elements of the film, such as images and speeches, to talk about climate change. Nevertheless, individuals selected information that seemed consistent with the value system. Participants also rejected some certain elements of the film, or even the film in its entirety. All participants said that the film aged badly. For example, they rejected some social representations that have been contained and conveyed in the film. They highlighted the misogyny and the manichaeism that may have been present in the film. Throughout the focus groups, participants made comparisons between their own social representation and the film's social representations in order to discuss climate change and the future. The film was a medium for imagining the climate future. However, it's important to note that it is a guided experience of the imagination, as they expressed a certain degree of catastrophism and fatalism to talk about climate future. The cinematic genre, therefore, has an effect on representations of the climate future. In addition, this representation made viewers feel negative emotions such as fear, anger, and apathy. We can therefore see that participants add meaning to the film. For example, they consider Waterworld to be ahead of this time because it deals with rising sea levels, whereas, according to them, at that time, everyone was only talking about the hole in the ozone layers. To conclude, these works highlight the potential of cinema and more broadly audiovisual fiction as a vehicle for social representations of climate change. It illustrates how films contribute to the construction of a shared reality through processes of anchoring, objectification, and collective imagination. As I continue this work as a part of my thesis, I'm now interested in how these representations convey and transform by films contribute to the shaping of how people process and shape the future climate in their imagination, combining environmental concern, cultural narratives, and possibility for action. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you all for the presentations, and maybe you can join there for the part of the questions, comments. I don't know if we can go around this to invite the eyes. Okay, thank you. So, the three presentations took the social representation theory, but also several others theoretical approaches, and it is interesting how they are combined. And they speak about three different artistical products if we can say, the fans magazines, the films, and the performance. But for instance, the performance of Vania Puma also is also filmed. So there is also some connections here. So I don't know. I would have some questions, but I think it's important to have the audience first. I would like you to introduce briefly the name before the question.
Hello, I am Mirella De Facto from the Joint International PhD in Social Representation, Culture and Communication, so La Sapienza, same as. I have a question regarding your methodology for the movie watching and the discussion. I don't know if I missed it or I didn't understand, but did viewers discuss the movie after watching it? Did they pause it in certain moments to discuss, like, how did you gather those data? And also, have you had any chance to collect, in a way, their representations before doing the movie?
I try to respond in English, but I'm not really good in English. But I don't have collect the representation of climate change before, and I think it was a good idea. But I don't have the time because I do this study for my master. So I have just 1 year to do that, so I can't. And for the methodology, the participant I show to the participants the film, and I take some notes to if they do some commentary, and I just comment dire, laisser le film, just.
Vous pouvez parler français et après on essaie de traduire.
J'ai juste fait, en fait, je leur ai fait visualiser le film comme si c'était un film au cinéma. Et donc, je ne les ai pas stoppés. J'ai juste pris des notes s'il y avait des interventions, des mots intéressants. Et après, on a fait une pause de 5 minutes parce que c'est un film de 2 heures. Donc, on a fait une pause de 5 minutes pour pas que ça soit trop dense. Et après, on a fait le focus group.
Okay. You need translation or it's
like the second part, maybe I just didn't
yeah, because
everything.
So they saw the full film, so 2 hours film, and then 5 minutes break, and then the focus group discussion.
Okay.
I don't know if it is, but I'm also wondering about this methodology because. Normally, there is the tiring effect. If you see a movie during 2 hours, all you have, normally the duration of a focus group must not endure more than 19 minutes or something. 1 hour, 19 minutes at least is considered the capacity of attention. So if the person's already saw 2 hours movie, I'm wondering, I know that it's young people, so it's not me, but maybe you should consider this effect also in the results. I don't know, this is just a comment. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks a lot. And my name is Teresa Smikova, and I'm head of the Law and Society Lab at University in Brno. And I actually have a question for the two of you. First one, thanks a lot. All these papers were very exciting, and I loved hearing about them. I have, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Haoxuan. I was thinking, because is there on the archive, is there any way of knowing where are the authors of the fan fiction from. Because I was also thinking, or if you were thinking to what extent does probably the Western-centric or the Eurocentric image of living through these collective memories, influences, what the conflicts are about. So that would be my question for you. I will ask just one question and then shut up. And for you, I was wondering, it's really interesting to see how our physical space is surrounded by various types of images. And I was wondering, do you know anything regarding the actual literacy of us seeing those pictures? Because I was thinking, and maybe it's too subjective.
Sorry, the literacy of?
The literacy when it comes to recognizing these things around us. For example, when you showed the column, the figures around them, to what extent do we actually notice that these are men and just one woman without being told? Or, for example, the placement of the coat of arms.
Yes.
To what extent do we even notice that these are not just pretty flowers, but images that are meant to communicate something?
Okay, yes, thank you for the question, because I also think it would be important to explore what nationalities the authors or the readers of this fan fiction either all their works or their comments will shape the collective memory together about the events. But sometimes they will just they will write, like in the beginning of the work, that I am American, so I might probably have my perspective of this event. Sometimes they will do that, but sometimes they will write in their profile on this website, but not always. So if I want to dig more, I might probably leave a comment and ask them directly, I think, because it's a very important point to find out people living in different countries, they have their own opinions about the historical events. Did I miss anything? Any other question? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Actually, I think this is a very interesting subject, but unfortunately, it's not in the scope now of this project. This kind of how we recognize now, how we relate, identify this. Like the details, as said, of the traces, but as a personal experience of living in Lisbon, I noticed that many people actually don't sometimes pass through the place of this garden, for example, where these coats of arms are now as stones in the pavement, and didn't notice all this what they are symbolizing. No, I mean, they haven't. Of course, people that maybe are not aware of the debate, also of what it was before. It was in flower, no. So I think this will be also a very interesting study, because it's actually already so embedded in the urban landscape now of Portugal. Those in this region, if you think, no, in Belém, there are very symbolic monuments there. Of course, they're the most famous one and big ones that claim for attention. But I think this will be an interesting study as well. We in our project, we are mapping all these traces. We started by the city of Porto, and in a further step, we'll also select some study cases, as I did for this work, to do my participatory work together with the community of artists, not to intervene, and how this. And in this moment, try to deepen more this how this impacts these counter narratives, how the people relate to these traces, to these monuments. But in this stages actually are more in the mapping stage, yeah, to try to understand the whole landscape. Thank you.
More questions, comments? No? Well, I was wondering, I have the questions for Haoxuan, because you mentioned that there is no absence of canon.
Mm-hmm.
Is the absence of a canon a problem? Because when we speak about dominant social representations or hegemonic social representations of the past, most of the times the activists and the people that want to intervene in the changing these representations fight the canon, because the canon gives a very selective idea of a subject. I'm wondering how you interpret this absence of canon, if it is a sign of huge diversity and creativity, or symbolize a space of silence and no saying things that are hard.
Yes, thank you for the comment, because I think I might probably just use it, put it in a wrong way to show. But the meaning of the absent canon here is just like you said, it's silence.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think I am showing. Because Italia, I know you probably don't know this anime, but because the characters of these nations, the whole work is mainly about the World War I and World War II stories. They just make the stories funny and unserious at all. So it mentioned a lot, like the alliance between the Axis powers and alliance between other countries. Mm-hmm. But in this context, it even didn't mention the harbor attack and the atomic bombing. So I think it would be.
It is for me. It's very surprised that they mentioned these events, because in the previous studies on representations of World War II, this big project that James Liu coordinated with other collaborators, these two events, the bombing and the Pearl Harbor, appeared a lot, not only in the United States, but in other countries. So I was a little bit, I was wondering why this absence is,
yeah, I think because there are sensitive topics in Japan, because this is a Japanese manga.
This is very interesting.
Thank you.
I actually have a question. My name is Vilhena. I'm from the University of Helsinki. I have a question from Flavie. Can you elaborate on the process of identifying the social representations of climate change in the film? In other words, how were they conceptualized in your analysis?
I can do a deep analysis of the film because I don't have the time for that. But for my thesis, I'm now interested in how analyze films, because in social psychology there is no.
There is,
but
there is a lot. Before maybe not, but now there are. For the last decade, there has been a lot of work on that.
Yes, but
not the majority, but
not the majority. But it's interesting, and I collaborate with another laboratory who very specific on the cinematic production, And I think it's interesting because for me, when I I see a water wall a lot of time, maybe 10 or 20 times, it was hard, but I just look the image and the speeches related, and maybe it's very naive and not professional, but when you see there is color, there is sound effect, and I can't take in my analysis because it was too complicated and I don't have the tool to do this. But when you look the film many times, yes, I think I produce I have produced some representation on the film, so it was complicated to make objectify the film in truly way. I don't can explain, but it was complicated to do the difference between my representation of the film, representation of the viewer, and I think I have to create, or I think I have to have a distance. Thank you. I have a distance on this to understand the production, and I think I have also to look the interview of the filmmaker or the production, because it's a very big film. What about lot of money? I think at that time the Waterworld is the most expensive film in 1995. So there is not the same production as like Flow 90 last year. I think I have to take this difference, and that's it.
More questions, comments? So if not, thank you again. See you around.